All right, let's get started. Hold on. Oh, you didn't want to be scooted, huh? All right, I have to make these paper towels go somewhere. I have to do this big load of meat dishes from Shabbos. Yesterday I made granola bars and banana bread. And so anyway, at the beginning of getting started here, I have to figure out what the priorities are. Because sometimes I just don't get to keep going and going. I'm in my 35 weeks on Wednesday. So just under 35 weeks. My energy levels are pretty good usually, but I'm fighting a sinus thing. And if I get tired, I'm going to sit down. But it's 9:08. I just dropped the kids off at school. And I have to leave here by 11:10 to pick up the girls. So I'm going to do what I can. But it's snowing outside. Okay. I think these two kombuchas are ready to brew. Ready to bottle. So that's one of my goals. But I have to use that as a reward. I like to do that part. So I have to do some cleaning before I get to it. So I'm just going to say all my counters and my floor need to clean before I can bottle. And the living room's a mess too. But it's not as hard to do while everybody's home. You want some banana bread? Is it good? The lid. Oh, this is the kind of thing. The lid off of the olive oil fell off into the sink and got wet. So I kind of seem like I'm out of breath a little bit because of the sinus thing, and also at this point in my pregnancy, I just feel like I'm out of breath, like breathing a lot more heavily, but not sick, not in a sick way, just it's supposedly normal at this point. As the baby pushes up, it takes up a lot of space, compresses your lungs, I don't know how you say it. And so it's hard for me to do the dishes here with the big pregnant belly here. Yeah, I put these off. These are Shabbos dishes. It's Monday. I did that in the sink all day yesterday. We did some errands. We took one of the kids to a birthday party. I bought a new cast iron pan with some birthday money. I like cast iron a lot, and my new... Oh, don't play with the dirty stuff, please. My new stove is induction heated and... Oh, stop. The induction burners don't take my aluminum pan, which it's like a special ceramic coated whatever aluminum. What is this doing here? But it still doesn't work. So I needed a bigger pan for doing things like basically dairy foods, like anything fried in butter. Okay. So, my least favorite part. So I have been trying to keep an eye on my health. I'm not doing keto, but I'm constantly thinking about going to it because I've had the circulation thing. Excuse me, let's put that on there. Good idea. Circulation problems in my hands return, and it comes and goes as being really bad or just bearable, or barely there. But when I did the keto thing for a couple of weeks, it went away, and it's really tempting to do it again. But I've been really focusing on fermented foods, making sure I get in some of it every day. So sauerkraut and kombucha are really the only two things I've gotten into. I haven't learned any other ferments other than things like tempeh that are not usually eaten raw. Even if they are eaten raw, it's not the same kind of probiotic effect. Okay, let's get this sink going. What's the thing? Baby shark? You got baby shark? So I noticed when I want to talk, I always want to talk about diet stuff when I'm on here because it helps me to solidify my views or like understand where I'm going wrong. Kind of like talking to someone and getting feedback. But the thing is, when I did keto, I lost weight. I lost like 23 pounds. I felt good overall, but I had a lot of bloating. And I mean, it was a lot. And at one point I tried to do carnivore, but it really wasn't affordable. It was not even possible for me to sustain it. Part of why I ended up going off of keto, aside from the nausea, like the morning sickness kind of symptoms, part of why I ended up having to go off it and not battle through that was financial stability. There just wasn't, I needed to cut the grocery budget back. Like, I needed to make the budget more solid and cut it back about $500. I was overspending our budget by like $500 to be keto. And as ridiculous as that sounds, when you do the math on what you should eat on keto, by the time you add in all of the almond flour and Lily's chocolate and calorie-free stevia drinks, you know, it adds up to a lot of money. And you feed everybody more similar foods, so everybody in the family is eating meat a lot more frequently, or however it is. That's how it was going for me. But the bloating issues, I think, I don't know exactly what caused them, but my theory. What do you want? You want some kombucha? You want some kombucha? my theory is that most of them were from artificial sweeteners like erythritol. Doesn't that look weird? That has really improved. I bottled some kombucha when it was too sweet. It was a green tea version, and I couldn't discern the sweetness very well when I went to bottle it, because I don't know, I'm used to tasting like that sharp bitter tea, and then that taste disappearing before I bottle. But, oh, there it's done. This is not sticking down here. Anyway, I bottled it too soon, so I took it out of the bottle, put it in a jar, and let it sit for a couple of days. And it has some fruit in it, but throwing some SCOBY on top, and it's just improved the flavor a lot. Tastes pretty good. I think it has just oranges in it. Orange chunks. Anyway, as I was trying to say about the keto experience that I had, it was overall good, but there was about a 20% negative bloating thing that I didn't understand. And at this point, being like a lot less focused on carbohydrate and a lot more focused on probiotic, digestion foods, I think I might have some of the missing pieces figured out. Something that you might not know if you're doing keto is that fermented foods, hold on, I gotta be here. Fermented foods like sauerkraut, the sugars are fermented out of the vegetable. Okay, sweetie. Even tempeh, the sugars, the starches, are fermented out. And you think about the digestibility of something improves, like it's infusing it with vitamins and minerals and acids and, not minerals, it doesn't infuse with minerals, vitamins and acids and protein acids, you know. Sweetie, it's too hot for you. And it does all of this by eating up the starches. I think ideally our own bodies would be able to handle, you know, a certain amount of starch that it would eat up and turn into the protein elements that we need. But when we have metabolic damage, we're not getting the enzymes and the, oh, come on. I forgot to rinse out this sink. I gotta take my gloves off again. I like to rant about this stuff. I don't know anything. I don't know everything. I just know that I feel like I'm onto something. But I read something about our pancreas creates something. What is it? Enzymes? Some of the digestive enzymes come from our pancreas, which leads me to believe that there's some connection between the digestibility of food and the pancreatic stress that causes the insulin resistance. Does that make sense? Anybody else on this rabbit trail seeing some connection here? Anyhow, it seems like the more you're onto something, the more everything becomes simplified. And my whole view of health has become more simplified. It seems like, woo, sweetie, I gotta wash those. You need to take your coat off so you don't get it about this worldview, this thought. 100 years ago, people, us, our grandparents, okay, let's say 150, because I don't know what year canning came on the scene, but in order to eat through the winter, food was preserved in root cellars and fermented format. So roots would be something you would cook in like a stew with, just a minute, baby. It's too hot. Meat. So you would have meat. You'd have cured meats, salted meats, heavily salted meats, and you would have sauerkraut, and things would be preserved in very various forms. Obviously, you would preserve things in any way you could. There would be dehydrated, sun-dried tomatoes and, I don't know, they didn't have tomatoes that long, berries or whatever, which would be used as condiments. Like you would add things like dried fruit into a pot of stew or something to add flavor, not into, like, I don't know how much dessert is going on, but I'm sure that there would be like porridges and pancakes and anything else that you could easily make with variations of fruits and syrups and things like that. But in the winter, you think about the primary food sources would have been fermented vegetables and stewed vegetables and meat. Any meat that was butchered in the winter, I suppose they'd probably be able to keep it like frozen or something, but I think a lot of it was like cured or dehydrated and rehydrated. And then you would have had your grains. Grains have been prepared traditionally, historically, in very specific methods. People didn't just dump them in a pot. They were soaked. Soaking would reduce cooking time, and soaking would increase vitamins and enzymes. It would also, cause the sprouting. So soaking was utilized a lot, and then also things like sourdough. Who made pancakes without sourdough 150 years ago? Like, we didn't have baking powder to skip that step. So a lot of soured foods. Also milk. We didn't have refrigeration. So the only milk you would be drinking fresh would be anything milked today. Which means most milk would be processed into soured products, cheeses, and yogurts, kefir, anything that you had a culture to get going. Buttermilk. But even, I don't know, beans, beans are an awesome food. But do you think that 150 years ago, when every bit of food is cooked over an open fire, that they wouldn't soak them? Like, they soaked them to soften them and reduce cooking time. But I think there could be reasons that they perceived or not. But soaking them does release enzymes and reduce phytonutrients. Phytonutrients are those parts of the plant that are meant to keep them from being appealing to bugs. So make them less digestible. Basically requiring them to be partially pre-digested before they are usable. And the history of fermentation, I mean, we have hundreds, thousands of years of history of fermented beverages and foods. I've seen things saying that sauerkraut might be one of the first ferments, at least vegetable ferments, I don't know, from thousands of years ago. We also have like wine and mead going way back. And you also have to think about the water situation. People didn't have the resources to boil all of their water. And they didn't have necessarily clean sources. So you had to rely on things like alcohol to kill germs. Hi. Or rather, you had to rely on fermentation to control the germs in water and food. So pre-refrigeration and filtration of water, etc. You have people using selective bacterial inoculation to create safe food products. And not only did we end up with safer food products, we ended up with something that boosts our the vitamins and nutrition. So I'm getting at something here. The recent history of food, the industrialization of food, has led to sterilization of everything. And part of this is from the pasteurization movement. You know, the germ theory developing way to the side of sterilize everything, which, you know, it has taken care of some really bad germs, but it's also eliminated some very strong sources of vitamins and enzymes in our diets. Like, people are undernourished. We have been eating these supercharged foods for generation after generation, and at this point we're eating foods that have been denatured and carry carry a reduced number of vitamins over even their raw counterpart. And we're consuming everything in a form that still has all of its sugar intact. So commercially made pickle or sauerkraut is made with vinegar instead of the natural lactobacillus cultures. And I haven't looked at this. I need to look at the picture. Could it be that one of our problems is, instead of eating our cabbage in a partially pre-digested form, we're eating it with all the starch intact and none of the extra enzymes to help us break it down, and our pancreases are overworked. We're not used to this. I've seen numbers as high as 300 times the amount of carbohydrate that our people ate, even in recent history. But when you think about the pre-digested carbohydrate intake, the sourdough bread with its pre-digested carbohydrate, it's just a different world. And I see see this like this movement towards like the super strict keto diet, and I see it like it works for a lot of people, but I don't think it's balanced. I think it's going in the other direction to correct an imbalance that has been going in the other direction for so long. Like 20 grams of carbohydrate a day for someone who has pancreatic damage, pancreatic stress that has depleted all the enzymes and the ability to produce them. What I'm saying is, why can't we heal the pancreas and feed it and feed our bodies purposely according to a more traditional diet pattern and expect to see healing? Like, so like, you're desperate and you have diabetes or you have conditions that have developed and you need to lose weight. Losing weight is one of the big things that can help. By all means, do the extreme keto, but like, if the real goal is to heal your gut and to replenish your vitamins and minerals, then Swerve is not cutting it. Like, the focus needs to be taken away from just this reduction in carbohydrates. It needs to be taken from reduction in carbohydrates to increase in nutrients. Like, there are a lot of fat soluble nutrients that we're getting because we're eating more fat, but what about like, fat is not does not have all the nutrients we need. And I know, like, even the carnivore idea has thinking it has all the nutrients we need. It's possible, but it's also very expensive for the most of the world. And unless you anticipate being able to raise, like, if you think about every single person needing to raise, I don't know how many cows you need a year to feed one person. Let's just throw out there one cow, one big fat cow per year per person. That's a lot of beef that somebody has to raise, and it's not us, because we all live in cities and we all live in places you can raise them. So somebody's, I don't know. If you can afford the grass-fed cows and you've got metabolic issues, go for it. Do that. Eat carnivore. Eliminate all the stuff that your body has to fight off. But if you can't, you have to get your nutrients from somewhere. And it turns out that we have a lot of ways to pre-digest our food that is not meat. Like, like kefir. I haven't got my kefir started. I've heard all about it, but I just haven't moved on to this. It's known for having 20 different strands of bacteria. I think it also has yeast because it's a SCOBY, so it must. But the amount of vitamins and enzymes that are acids, like protein acids, we're talking about amino acids. We're talking about the conversion of raw food stuff into assimilatable food, digestible food. Essentially turning it from one thing into another, like beef. Like, the cow eats the grass and becomes something that we can utilize more easily. Like we can't eat the grass, but we use fermentation to accomplish a similar thing. Oh, it's dirty. Let's wash it. It's also got a pokey spot. I missed a couple of dishes and I drained my sink. Anyway, what do y'all think of that? That's where my mind's going right now with fermented foods and stuff. And whenever I think about doing keto again, I think I don't want to get bloated. And I do want to eat highly dense, nutritious food. Are we out of towels up here? I think we're out of towels. More laundry up. Are you gonna drink that? And then when I really analyze it all on some level, I feel like it's not really necessary to go in that 20 grams a day carbohydrate mode if your carbohydrate intake is not stressing your body and the foods you're eating are nutrient dense. So anyway, I always have this problem with diets. I can stick to them as long as I'm following along the science, but as soon as I find an area where I disagree, I can't motivate myself to go full force into it, even though I know it works on a level. But I also know at some level I've discovered it not working, like the bloating issue, and just the food aversions during pregnancy, like all of it. Why is it not working? Well, I believe that our bodies are pretty intuitive. Okay, we got a full load of this in here. Up there. Let's see what's here. I'm gonna check my other camera. Of course, it's not going anymore. I don't know. Get that one anyway. Oh, because we've been going for 33 minutes, that's why. And it's got a 20-minute timeout. I guess I should have kept an eye on that. All right. Yeah, so I'm in a position where I believe that there's a lot of merit to this battle with carbohydrates and the insulin causing weight gain and all of these things. But I think there's more to the picture. I think it hasn't all been fleshed out yet, and it's going to be. And I think one of the big connections is this gut microbiome connection. I'm not sure how it's good. Let's just wipe that. Uh-oh. Here, let me move those. I don't know what he's trying to do. Oh, he's trying to come over here. Okay. I'm going to move that. I think I'm going to dry some of these dishes to put them away. Because I need this. Oh, you found some. Here, how about you have this one? All right. So, anyway, I also, this gestational diabetes, I chose this time in my pregnancy not to get tested for it. And I have some reasons. Partially, I believe that for someone who's doing eating risky foods all the time and has no idea about insulin, it's probably a good idea to test and probably a good idea to follow the advice you get. But in my experience, being diagnosed with it 3 different times, the first time being diagnosed late due to some insurance thing not going for financial reasons to do the testing. I was diagnosed with my first baby having it. I was allowed to try diet for 1 week, and when my numbers were not satisfactory, I was put on insulin. And I didn't have any knowledge of how to control blood sugar before this. I didn't know anything about it. But my numbers were not horrible. They were just over the recommended guidelines for gestational diabetes. The insulin made me sick. The insulin made me struggle a lot with everything. And it was only probably 3 weeks of the whole thing because it was so late in the game. They were so worried about a big baby. I didn't have a big baby. I was induced because I was misled on all of this stuff. I chose to be induced. I had a 7-pound baby at almost 39 weeks. And after he was born, I did a lot of dieting. Okay. Before I had him, I had gone on this super high fruit diet. Just upped my enzymes like dramatically. And I got pregnant. I had been having fertility issues for 5 years. So, 5 years. I had 5 miscarriages. 5 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks. I had a hard time believing I was going to be able to have a baby. At some point along there, I was diagnosed with PCOS. What's wrong, buddy? So anyway, I was very I feel like I was very vulnerable to suggestions of anything, but I wasn't being given any information from the start. Like, why do they wait until you're 27 to 29 weeks to do this test? Well, it turns out that a lot of women are diagnosed in that window and then it goes away. There's like a lot of really weird things that I've learned. So my next, when I was pregnant with twins, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes, but it turned out that, and it's always with just one number of the numbers being off. And anyway, I was diagnosed with it, and then after eating McDougall style, fat-free for a week, I went in to test my blood meter, and it turned out it was completely off. They got me a new one, and all my numbers were coming back as like completely normal. So they took away my diagnosis, told me I didn't have to test. Essentially, I don't know, meaning there was something probably dietary involved rather than placenta, something theory that they have. And then with my next pregnancy, I was diagnosed at the, 29-week-ish point. I followed their diet. My numbers were fine. Hi. And then at some point I started following the McDougall diet again with the no fat. And what I have theories about this no fat thing now that I didn't have then, but I started, my numbers got way better. They got way better. They were completely controlled. Eating broccoli and brown rice for almost every meal. 4 meals a day because I was starving. I would get hungry after 3 hours. My numbers were excellent. And after 2 weeks of this, reporting my numbers, they were like, wow, maybe you don't have it, because I was eating, against their guidelines, I was eating at least, I think it was 100 grams of carbs per sitting. I might have been counting the fiber. I might have been counting wrong, but the only things that would spike my blood sugar, and it wasn't like it was spiking them out of the number zone that was acceptable, but the only thing that would spike it would be like cold cereal, or highly processed flour-based foods rather than whole foods. So after they basically said, whatever, we're not worried about you, I was just hungry. So somewhere around the end of my 30, I want to say in the, are you okay? 37 week-ish range, I don't remember now. The last 3 to 6 weeks, I don't remember. But I started eating, I started doing like a Trim Healthy Mama approach with the high-fat meals separated from the low-fat meals. And I realized after the first time I had breakfast that was eggs, coconut oil, it was like fried onions, mushrooms in coconut oil with eggs, and I may have added cheese. I don't know now. But this high-fat protein vegetable meal, the next day my numbers went down an entire point. I went from being an acceptable number to being an exceptional number. So I kind of threw out the whole theory. I was like, guys, this is totally diet. There's something wrong with this whole setup. This is not a placenta abnormality thing that's developed. There's diet problems. And I stayed healthy. I stayed strictly away from processed food for the rest of my pregnancy, and I delivered a 7-pound, 9-ounce boy at 40 weeks and 5 days. So what I found is that getting them involved in the whole process of testing just opens me up to more stress and anxiety. And more stress and anxiety makes me more vulnerable to intervention, asking for intervention. Even, I don't know, I'm confident in the fact that losing 23 pounds combined with eating pretty decent and eating all these fermented foods, including kombucha, which is known for reducing blood sugar levels, like just bringing them down a little overall. I'm not doing anything to harm my baby. Even if I were to get a diagnosis for gestational diabetes, I wouldn't trust it. I feel like they don't know what they're doing. I know if you have diabetes, you have type 2, type 1 already, I would not recommend going against anything they say. Just, there's something off in my belief, and no, I'm not encouraging you to stop listening to your doctor. You do what you're, hold on, this is not on again. Why? Just, it can't maintain the battery. Okay, I guess I'm turning that one off. For me, I trust my intuition, I trust my body, I trust my research more than I trust theirs. And I know that sounds crazy, but trust is important, and they haven't won mine. They as in, I don't know, the scientific community that isn't scientific. Like, there's too much bias in the medical world that leads toward over intervention, and it's drug based. It's based on, can we develop a drug to do something, more than it is based on, does this person really need help? Will intervention actually cause better outcomes? And I know that I'm not saying this about all drugs, I'm not saying this about all medical treatments, I'm just saying that my overall opinion on this system, and this wonderful system that is absolutely necessary in so many situations, and I would also use their assistance for any of these emergency situations. I don't trust them about dietary advice. I don't trust them about a lot of things. And I think it's not wrong to be skeptical of a system and to take what makes sense seriously and what doesn't make sense with caution. So you can say, I told you so if I have a 10-pound baby, but what's up? Found, do you want some of this? Do you want some of this? Anyway, my overall approach has just been to stay relaxed, be intuitive, and eat to live, and keep an overall reduced what, you want milk in it? Reduced carbohydrate load with a high nutrient density goal. Come on, buddy, you can have some. And it doesn't always, okay, you can have some of that. It doesn't always come out to me eating the best foods. It just keeps me low stress, and apparently stress is another thing that can make your sugar go off. Even a bad night's sleep, your numbers can go up. There's a lot of factors that are not dietary. I'll have some of this one. So I don't know. What do you think? Am I crazy? I bought a small thing of smooth peanut butter at the dollar store. It wasn't $1, it was $2.50. Because the Dollarama is not only $1. But I bought it for my husband because he'll eat the natural peanut butter, but he just doesn't. It's not the same. It's like ice cream versus smoothie, maybe. I don't know. He doesn't love it. You know, he likes smoothies. What am I saying? Ice cream versus a slushie. That's what I'd say. Okay, how's my cleaning doing? How am I doing? This has been going for 51 minutes. I'm probably going to have to condense it. But look, I got all these dishes done. The floor is still a mess. I can't bottle my kombucha yet because I have to get this done. I think most of this stuff should go in the dishwasher. This is all the measuring cups and stuff from baking. I made 2 loaves of banana bread and 2 pans of granola bars last night. My granola bars, I don't know if they turned out great. They turned out okay, but I'm kind of low on mix-ins. I need to buy some more coconut shreds and stuff like that. So they have a little bit of an interesting texture, missing some stuff. This bowl just has too much fat in it. What else do we have here? Okay. I have some carb dishes that need to be washed. Rinsing them. That will help. You ever notice you rinse something, it could start to loosen up everything, even though you don't leave it soaking? That's something I noticed a while back here. I don't always remember to not leave things soaking in a puddle, but seems like just rinsing it works most of the time. What else do we have here? Last night I made chicken tenders fried in palm oil. Now, if I lived somewhere that I could get kosher beef fat or tallow rendered fat, I would be using that for all of my frying of beefy, like meat stuff. But because I can't get that here, at least not for any reasonable cost, because you can always get things if you're willing to order them. But there's no comparison in the affordability, so I just don't haven't ordered $12 a pound or $20 a pound stuff. Anyway, if you live somewhere that you can get beef fat, by all means use that. But, or I guess if you're not Jewish, you can eat lard. obviously you have to be okay with eating lard to eat it, but some people are and some are not. Have to just keep chatting, huh? What do I have here? I had to mix this right. Anyway, I fried 2 packages. 2 packages, approximately 3 pounds total of chicken breasts, which I got for 50% off, like of normal price. Maybe less than 50%. I don't know. I worked it out to be like $3.29 a pound versus the normal. Like, that was after my points, of course, but I always get points. So I think it's normally about $10 a pound, and then I get 20% off in points. So normally 8-ish. But super excited about this grocery haul that I had last week because I got 32 packages of chicken for so much less than usual. And I'm gonna try to make them last a few months because other meat is also available that I can get. But on Tuesday this week it's Customer Appreciation Day at Sobeys and Safeway. That's when I usually buy my beef. And I did buy some beef at Superstore because I like the lean beef there. It comes in a really great vacuum sealed pack and it's like a really good texture. But they don't ever carry medium ground beef, which I prefer to use in a lot of my recipes. So, I plan to get a number of packages of medium ground beef on tomorrow. I guess tomorrow's Tuesday. What are you doing? Where did you put that croissant? My husband had to be at Costco for a eye appointment, getting some contact fitting thing done. So I had him pick up a few items that I was completely out of on Sunday. But the thing is that I still need some things from Costco. And I've been making my list. I'm going to try to put it off until next week. Because this week I need to do my Sobeys and Safeway shop. But I don't know, I'm kind of in a different mode with the shopping. I was doing the once a week shop, and that was working really good before we moved. But not the once a month, but like doing it all a lot more consolidated, like in the first couple of weeks, and then leaving some of the. What do you want? Do you want a show? Do you want some water? Anyway, I have like several places I have to go in a month. I'm going all in one week sometimes works better because the deals work out really good. I think he wants to watch a show. Oh, you want a little baby bum? wants his nursery rhymes. Anyway, I was just saying, like, every month is different. I have some modes I can go into shopping, but I try to take advantage of major deals, like advertised deals, and sometimes I get in-store deals that totally disrupt everything I had planned as far as, you know, doing a every week shop or a monthly shop, and that's okay. Like this chicken deal, technically we could eat chicken all month. We'd have all the protein we needed, and we'd probably have tons left over for next month, but it's taken up a little extra of my grocery budget, but it's not like in the end it's gonna work out to being a huge savings over the next 3 months. So I'm still gonna go buy beef and any in-store deals I get at the other store. But if I were to limit my grocery budget this week to, oh, I already spent it because I got that chicken deal, I wouldn't be able to get in on the beef at the Sobeys and Safeway 15% off day, and I'd miss out on a different $50 worth of savings, you know. So I think my major tendency to save money is to focus on the protein, because protein is typically the most expensive item all month long. Like, that's it. That's going to be at least $8 a pound. Almost always. Now, I guess you can get bone-in chicken for less than that, but let's just say $4 to $8 a pound. Almost everything else we buy is in the $1 a pound range, except for cheese, which we can buy at any time at Costco, but only if we want to buy the shredded stuff, we can only get that at Safeway, or not Safeway, at Sobeys. So yeah, it's all this like complicated predicting the month and how much of stuff we can use, need to use, etc. Or limiting the stuff, rationing it. Like, go to Sobeys tomorrow. I'm going to get 4 bags of cheese for sure. Maybe 5. But I would buy 4 because we're going to have pizza 4 times in the next month. And will I only use, for 2 pizzas I make. Excuse me. Let me try this again. 1 bag of cheese makes 4 pizzas. But we've been eating a lot more than, like, I want to have leftovers in the freezer. So I've been making like 3 pizzas, or if anytime somebody needs a meal, pizza is one of my go-tos. So like, made some pizzas for someone who just had a baby in our community last week. So cheese, shredded cheese, I need a minimum of 2 bags. But if I only buy 2 bags, then I cannot use it for anything but pizza. Because we need to have pizza. I mean, we always have pizza once a week. And when we don't have the cheese, we feel sad and don't have the pizza. But that's for 2 pizzas. And if we make 2 pizzas nowadays, the kids are eating enough that there's not quite enough leftovers for 1 lunch for my husband and the kids. So I make 3 pizzas, and there's plenty of leftovers. The kids take a slice in their lunch, the girls take half a slice in their snack, I guess, and My husband takes his 4 or so slices in his lunch. What am I doing? I'm just like rambling about pizza math. There's always more than that left when there's 3 pizzas. But when there's only 2 pizzas, there's only like 3 pieces left. So, this is math. In my head is easier to do if I just say we're having pizza 4 times, I'm buying 4 bags. Whatever's left over is left over, and we can use it for other meals, or it can be left over for next month. Like, so that's my way of doing it. But I'd rather. Oh. Whew. I'm not going back to Sobeys at all for cheese halfway through the month and paying that extra, is it $3 a bag? I think it's $3 more per bag if you don't get the 15% discount. And I have the same kind of thing in the summer. I buy hot dogs because we might have a hot dog roast. Like we might go to the park and have a hot dog roast. And I'm not going back to Sobeys to buy hot dogs. So even if they sit in the fridge or the freezer for an extra month because we didn't have them, we always end up having them, but it just, I just try to prepare on those few specific items that I'm not going to be able to get later. And if it turns out that we didn't use them, it's okay. This is the green tea kombucha. Oh my goodness, it's fizzy. Oh, yummy. So my second ferment has been mostly in this jar. Oh, it has pear in it too. I forgot about the pear. And it's fizzy right now. It won't keep fizzy. But the SCOBY that forms on the top holds the fizz in just enough. Yeah. This bottle, I gotta dump this into something else before that SCOBY gets any bigger. What do I have? This is a red raspberry batch that I made and I let go too long because I didn't know what to do with it or when it was done or anything. It just didn't taste familiar. Anyway. Am I done enough yet to bottle this kombucha? I don't know. Still got this other counter over here. I think I need to use this. Anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit more about food. Traditional food theory and stuff. And I'm discovering something that okay, so I've been doing more baking because what happens when we don't bake, when I don't bake, is we end up buying junky baked foods made with canola oil and soybean oil and who knows what else, high fructose corn syrup. At this point I'm using regular flour I've made a judgment call based on our budget and implications of health on one level or the other, that it's better for me to afford to still be able to buy meat, to still be able to buy the kombucha making supplies, than it is for me to buy organic flour, because flour is actually fairly low, at least in Canada, fairly low in glyphosate. And organic flour is actually not completely glyphosate free. I spent several years grinding my own wheat and trying to incorporate that whole wheat flour into recipes, and it's never been a success. I can make some really good pancakes, but and I do have a couple of recipes for breads that turn out pretty good, but they're like super multi-grain and dense, chewy, delicious if you like that kind of thing. But I don't have any success in the desserts department. And what happens when I don't make desserts that turn out great, or baked goods, is my husband will buy junk food, or I will buy junk food because he requests it or because I want it. So the compromise is home baking, but I have switched to coconut sugar, which has a lower glycemic index than regular sugar, and I've noticed a big difference, like the way I feel after eating things made with it. I've also shunned all processed oils beyond the palm shortening that I'm using, which is low processing. It's just filtered basically. And then I'll use butter, but depends what I'm trying to make, because if I need it to be dairy free, I'm using the shortening. Otherwise I'm using butter. But I'm using honey for a few recipes and coconut sugar for other recipes. Wow, is this ever good? Anyway, instead of trying to conform to a strict standard of, we just don't buy stuff, we just don't have dessert, when I know that we're just going to buy it because we're going to get weak and have a need for that, I'm just trying to set us up for better, a better choice. Not that every choice has to be the best possible choice, but that every choice should be the best choice you can make preemptively. So my preemptive strategy, by design, I am making sure there are healthier options. But I have goals to involve this food even more towards healthy. So I'm baking. Again, nobody's feeling sick because I'm baking, as far as I can tell. But I really want to learn to make more sourdough-based items, or at least bring in an element of fermentation to my doughs. So my batters for muffins, pancakes, everything. I should be able to bring in some element of soaking or inoculating with a bacterial advantage culture. But I'm not going to sacrifice every element of what we love about something to make it. learned this a long time ago with pizza, that if I make whole wheat pizza, that we're gonna go buy regular pizza somewhere. Which, you know, now we only have one place we can buy pizza, kosher. But we spend a lot more money and we have a lot more impulse purchasing and just impulse eating when we don't set ourselves up for the things that we love. And pizza is something that's cultural and I don't know how to describe it. It's like a comfort food, but it's weird being American and Canadian. We have these normals, and they don't come necessarily from healthy places, but keeping them in a place of manageable pleasure without it keeps them from getting to be an obsession. Does that sound right? So having pizza once a week, and sometimes a little less because we do occasionally not feel like it. Keeping it in a place of planning, we're going to have it, we love the version we make, etc. Keeps us from obsessing about food. Keeps us from splurging and going out and buying last minute the local pizza that we can buy, which all the implications are, yes, we eat pizza once a week, but no, we don't eat it as a reaction to something. So it keeps it in a healthier place. Does that make sense? And I think it's the same with the baking. If I have baked things that I put in my kids' lunches, my husband's lunch, that I just have around, there's not this huge hunger thing that gets out of control that tends toward chips and cookies from the store. Anyway, I guess that's just something I've observed. I think you tell me, is this something you've gone through? What do you do to keep cravings and addictions and things like that out of your story, out of your home? So even kombucha is like kind of a thing like that. Oh, this one, okay. Kombucha, when we first discovered the bottled stuff with carbonation and whatever, we had been drinking a lot of Zevia before. And Zevia, like, it's delicious, but it's $1 a can, and there's no nutritional value. So when we discovered kombucha, it was like $3 a bottle, which was enough for 2 people. I mean, you always want more, but it was nutritionally superior. Other than when we were doing the low sugar, we couldn't have much of it. But once I started brewing it ourselves, if I make 7 of these every month, I estimated that I'm spending around $40. Not every month, sorry, 7 of these a week. I might be spending as much as $40 a month. And another however many dollars on fruit or juice or whatever. But that's not more than we were spending on Zevia. That's not more than we've ever spent on any beverages. Like, my husband will buy beer just to have something to drink. So, not that he never buys beer anymore, because he still does. And not that we never buy juice anymore. or drink milk or anything. Like, we still drink other things, but there's kind of like a less urgent, craving-based thing around drinks. We don't splurge. We just have a little that we buy. Like, anyway, last month's budget was completely under control until the last week when Shabbos was coming, and I made a dessert, followed a recipe on YouTube, but I used my natural peanut butter. Oh, it's still sitting there, I gotta throw it out, but it didn't turn out, and it still looks about the same as it did before, but it was actually more crumbly originally. This was a week ago, and this is not molded, but I'm scared because it's been sitting out. I'm trying to remember what's in here. Sugar, and I don't remember which kind of sugar I used, but peanut butter, eggs, sugar, bake, that was about it. I'm gonna compost this. But it was so dry and crumbly, it was not edible. I didn't have enough time to make something, and I knew my husband was hungry because I hadn't baked well all week, and he was gonna come home hungry, and he was gonna be hungry on Shabbos. So I sent him to buy some baked goods from the store, and he bought, I asked him to buy this particular cookie that's made with butter, so we bought those, but he also had to buy some other stuff that he likes. Ended up spending like $25 on foods that I could have made for like, if I had baked something, I would have spent less than $10 on baking to have had that much variety. And if my baking had just turned out, it would have been nothing. But anyway, that's where we went over the budget. And this is where I think having a bigger deep freeze would be really handy, because I need to get ahead on this baking thing, but also just getting into a routine of, twice a week doing some baking. I bake challah every week, and it's really easy to bake one other thing around that time using the oven when it's on, but I need to have a day that I bake for the week, not just for Shabbos. So I need to get my dusting. Cleaning up the floor here. Getting close to done in here. Anyway, so part of what's held me back in the baking is my mentality has always been, baking carbs, not good. Just stay away from that stuff, you'll overeat it. But the thing is, when I don't make them with white sugar, I don't overeat them. I don't gorge myself on muffins and pastries and whatever. I self-limit a lot better when there's not so much sugar in them, and they still taste incredible. If you're not baking with coconut sugar yet, you should give it a try. Now, yeah, there's other sugars that are better than white sugar, and you should use your own judgment research and what's available to you to determine what you would like to use, but like select some ingredients that you believe are healthy, healthier, nutritious, full of more good things for your family, because nutrient density is key, one of the keys to good gut health and everything else. Feed that system good stuff. If you're in the States, you might have as your standard, especially if you're in the Northwest. I don't know if it goes anywhere else. And they have like the Sucanat and stuff like that. You could check your Costco for what they have, but my Costco has this 1.8 kg, is that like 4 pounds of coconut sugar for $10. So a pound of it is $2.50. That's not, organic sugar is like $1 a pound, and regular sugar is like 50 cents a pound. So yeah, a recipe that uses a pound of it is going to take an extra $2 over white sugar. And I don't know what brown sugar costs to compare, but I don't remember. It's been a while since I bought it. It's probably in the $1 a pound range. The coconut sugar works really good as a combination sugar. It's almost like brown sugar and white sugar. Yeah. And then there's like baking muffins and stuff. There's always just reducing the sugar. So anything that doesn't taste great with the darker sugar.